Hi everyone! Today I'm showing you how to make 3 easy bean patties. My mom's meatloaf bean patties, my barbecue sweet potato bean patties, and my curry chickpea patties, which I've shared on the channel before, but they're so easy and delicious that I wanted to show them again. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Show Me Mo Vegan, where I make easy, whole food vegan meals. And we've got a lot of bean patties to make today, so let's get right into it. I'm starting with my mom's meatloaf patties, and here are all the ingredients you'll be using. Don't worry about taking notes. I'll have a link in the details below to a blog post that includes all of the instructions and amounts for each recipe. I'm starting with 2 cans of beans, black beans and a can of tri-blend beans. You should be able to find these in most grocery stores, but if you can't, it's just a mixture of kidney beans, pinto beans, and black beans, so you could substitute a can of any one of those varieties. I also like to get no salt added beans when I can, but most of the time I'm only able to find the low sodium beans in my stores, so I like to drain and rinse my beans really well. So that's what I have here, my 2 cans of beans drained and rinsed, and I'm adding them to my mixing bowl. I'm just going to mash it up with a potato masher. You could use a fork, but I think one of these potato mashers is the best tool for this job. And a lot of people wonder, if you want to be plant-based, why do you try to make your food like meat? The only reason we call these meatloaf patties is because it's the flavors that we're missing, not the meat. So we're using the flavors you would traditionally find in a meatloaf in these bean patties. And you can mash these up as much as you like. I like to mash them up enough that they'll stick together really well, but if you have a few chunks of beans, that's okay. In fact, I like to keep a little texture in my bean patties. Now that those are mashed up, I'm going to make a flax egg, which is simply an egg substitute. I'm using 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water. I'll simply mix that together and let it set here for a few minutes while we prepare the other ingredients. This just allows the flaxseed some time to absorb that water and become a more egg-like consistency, which will help to hold our bean patties together. Next, I'm adding half a can of no salt added tomato sauce, and it's just approximately half the can. If you found one of those little, I think they're 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce, you could use that as well. Then I'm adding a cup of rolled oats. These are just regular old-fashioned rolled oats. And you can adjust these amounts. If you ever find that your patties aren't quite sticking together, you might add more or less oats depending on everything else you've added in. You just want to make sure your patties hold together. Next, I have a mixture of cooked rice and sorghum. I like to use this combination, and if you stay to the end of the video, I'll show you how I make this, or the instructions will also be in the blog post linked in the description. But you could also substitute with any leftover cooked rice or other whole grains that you like. I just like this combination of rice and sorghum, and I'm adding a cup of that. This is also going to help hold the patties together and give them a really great texture. Next, it's time for some flavor. I'm adding garlic powder, onion powder, dry mustard, and dried minced onions. You can also add black pepper to your taste. And finally, I'll add in my flax egg. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but it's become a little thicker and more gelatinous. And then I'll just mash everything together and mix it well. Now it's time to scoop out the patties. I like to use an ice cream scoop, but you could also use a measuring cup or other utensil, or you could even just form the patties with your hands. You just want to try to get them nice and even and spread them out on a baking sheet with either parchment paper or a silicone mat. I ended up with 13 patties, but it depends on the size of your scoop and how big you want your patties to be. I'm just going to set these aside while we make our other patties, and we'll bake them in a little bit. Okay, now it's time for my barbecued sweet potato bean patties. It includes a lot of the same base ingredients. Each of these patties really uses kind of the same formula, so I'm usually always using some kind of beans, oats, and cooked grains. And then for this patty, I'm also using sweet potato. Once again, I'm using the tri-blend beans, but you could use a different variety if you prefer. This time I'm only using 1 can of the beans, so I'll throw those in. And then I'm also adding that rice and sorghum mixture. Again, you could use just rice or any other grain that you like. Once again, I'm using a cup of rolled oats. And I'm using flaxseed again, But this time, I'm simply throwing the flaxseed right into my mixture instead of making the flax egg separately. Usually, either way works. Sometimes, if you just throw the flax in this way, you might want to let your bean patties rest a little bit before you bake them, just to give the flaxseed a little time to absorb some of the moisture. And then, like I said, we're using sweet potato. I'm using a Jersey sweet potato. You could also use a Hana yam or Japanese sweet potato, but these are white fleshed sweet potatoes, and I really love the texture and flavor. I simply steamed this in my Instant Pot, but you could also steam it on the stovetop, or you could roast it in the oven for even more depth of flavor. And once it's cooked, you'll simply peel the skin and mash it with a fork. And once again, I'll mash everything with the potato masher. And I just realized I didn't mash the beans first. It would be best to mash your beans before you add everything else, but no worries, if you mess up like I did, it'll still turn out. These patties are very forgiving. And to flavor these up, I'm simply using barbecue sauce. I simply got a store-bought, unsweetened, sugar-free barbecue sauce, but you could make your own. I have my own homemade barbecue sauce recipe that's really easy, and I'll link that for you. But today, I'm just going with the store-bought since that's what I have on hand. You can add as much barbecue sauce as you like. I'd recommend at least 2 or 3 tablespoons. And then I'm also just going to sprinkle a little garlic powder for a little extra boost of flavor. You can also add black pepper again if you like to your taste. I love barbecue sauce so much, and the smell in here is amazing just from that barbecue sauce alone. And they haven't even started baking yet. So once we have these mixed up, once again I'm using my ice cream scoop to scoop out the patties. Once again, I'll set these aside, I'll clean everything up. I'm also preheating the oven to 400 degrees, so they'll be ready to go once we finish these curry chickpea patties. Alright, so here we are. These are the ingredients for the curry chickpea patties. And this is probably starting to look familiar. So I'm starting with my beans. This time I have chickpeas. Again, I drained and rinsed them. We're gonna mash them up. Chickpeas can be a little more difficult to mash, especially if you're using canned. Sometimes they tend to be a little firmer than if you cook them yourself. But just be patient, and again, you can use a potato masher or a fork. Either one works fine. And then once again, I've got that rice and sorghum mix, adding that in. Again, you can stay to the end of the video to see how I make this. Next up, we have our rolled oats. Maybe that was a few too many rolled oats. Like I said, these recipes are forgiving, so if you need to, you can adjust your other ingredients if you do what I just did. I'm using ground flaxseed again, and again, I'm just mixing this one in instead of making a flax egg. And then I'm using just a regular orange sweet potato for this one. I cooked it the same way in my Instant Pot, but once again, you could bake it or steam it on the stovetop. You just need it to be cooked and mashed. And then I'm adding garlic and onion powder again. And then of course for our curry flavor, curry powder. You can get whatever kind of curry powder you like. Some are a little more spicy than others. And then once again, I'm adding black pepper. Once again, I'm mixing and mashing everything together. I kind of like using my potato masher to mix everything around, but you can also get in there with a wooden spoon or your hands. And then you know the drill, I'm using my ice cream scoop to scoop out my patties. I was going to try to see if I could fit all of these patties on these 2 trays because I only have 2 racks in my oven, but I don't think that's going to work. It's okay though, I can save the rest of my mixture and bake it later. Now the oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll put these in to bake for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, take them out and very gently flip them. The patties will be delicate, so you want to be careful while flipping so as not to break them apart. Then they'll go back in the 400 degree oven for another 10 to 20 minutes. It really just depends on how well done you like your patties. I like mine to be really nice and crispy on the outside and a little soft and chewy on the inside. Now that they're all out of the oven, it smells amazing in here. Take a look at all these patties. These patties also just get better and better as they sit. So after you bake them, you can keep them in the refrigerator and then reheat them. I like to reheat them in my toaster oven so they get nice and toasty on the outside again. They also freeze really well, and in fact, I think they're even better after they've been frozen. I love cooking big batches of bean patties to keep in my freezer so that I always have some on hand. They're great for an easy snack or meal. And you can eat them however you like. You can eat it on a bun and dress it up like a burger, but I really like to eat them in a pita pocket. I also love eating them alongside a big salad with some potato wedges or sweet potato fries. It's also great alongside mashed potatoes and veggies. That makes for a really great comfort meal. So just to recap, we have my mom's meatloaf patties, my barbecued sweet potato bean patties, and the curry chickpea patties. Comment down below which one sounds good to you. I hope you'll give these a try. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more whole food plant-based meal ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. In each of these recipes, I used a cup of cooked rice and sorghum. Like I said, you could just use rice, but I like the combination of the two. I take 1 cup of sorghum and 1 cup of short grain brown rice and rinse those really well. I added that to my 6-quart Instant Pot with 5 cups of water or vegetable broth. Then pressure cook on high for 27 to 30 minutes. After that, just let it natural release and it's ready to go. If there's a little bit of extra liquid, you can just leave that and the rice and sorghum will soak it up. For these patties, it's okay if it's a little mushy because it helps to hold the patties together. But like I said before, you can just use whatever leftover whole grains you have in the fridge. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.